Hey, hey, intuitive heroine. Thanks for joining me for episode 2 of the Be Her podcast, where we as women claim it. We are the weavers and the storytellers of the new narrative. We are story by story, creating the tapestry for this new era that we're all living in right now. And before we can create new stories, we want to take a moment in understanding the stories that have made up who we are. Because I really honestly believe this, that when we can take responsibility and own our story as it is today, then from there we can create anew. And also we can understand who we are and what we're here to do. Because you'll hear me say it more than once. When we reclaim our intuitive wisdom, what happens is the lights come on and women remember who the fuck they are. And then we step into heroine status. That's what I've found in this work in my own life and in the many women who I've worked with. And it's in the themes and threads of our stories, that's where we find who we are. And we are made up of so many stories that live in your blood, your bone, your muscle. Stories that we've inherited through family and our ancestry line. Stories of our family, our communities, the time that we're living in, the place that we're living in. But we also have these deeply personal stories that do shape us, shape how we understand ourselves, how we understand our place in the greater narrative. And today I want to take us to the game changer stories. They're the stories of either initiation or catalyst, because they are literally where you can note for self the before and after. That's why they're the game changers, because they change who you are, or they change how you understand the world, or they change what you do in the world, or how you feel about yourself and the world. You are changed because of that story that you lived within. And so in order to share the impact of these catalyst and initiation stories, I'm actually going to share 3 stories in a series of big moments of change and also understanding who I am and why I'm here. So if you know me, you know that I am in a mad love affair with stories, and as well as being someone who has worked in the mystical and the magical, as well as natural health and healing for many, many, many years, more than 20 years now. Before that, I was a theatre practitioner. I worked in community theatre, and then I worked in applied storytelling, and I am an author, and I eat books for breakfast. So stories is something that I understand so deeply, which supports my work in helping other women understand the stories that they're living in. But sometimes it can take a while. We can take some time in understanding what stories that we've lived through or are living through now, what they mean for us. So as I share my story, you can sink into Storyland and be inside the story with me. And I also invite that we are so amazing, our capacity for understanding and meaning making. So you are able to also be in a space of your story and what my story is inspiring inside your story. So just take a big deep breath now as we move into Storyland. And as I share more my story, Allow your story of who you are and what you're here to do to be alive in you as well, because it may not be completely clear in this moment, but in the days following, my hope, and this is like I'm quietly confident about this because of the amount of story work that I've done. I really do hope that your story bubbles to the surface and makes it into the pages of your journal or into a conversation you have with your partner or a really amazing soul sister of yours. For the invitation is always, it can be about you, it can be about your story. Because when we own our stories, we can begin to rewire them and rewrite them. We can begin to understand how they are the building blocks of who we are. Okay, so let's settle in for story time. It's 3 stories, and I'm going to share them like 3 chapters of a larger story. Chapter 1. We're on a set of wooden steps that lead from the back door into the garden, and it's a really hot day in Australia. So we're sitting in the shade that's made from the awning that goes over these steps, and we're sitting there because we're hoping for some breeze. And I'm there with my gorgeous son, Sage. He's about 4, almost 5 at this time, and still loving to just spend time in creativity and play. And this is one way that we are able to connect. So we're sitting on these wooden steps and we're playing the game, the card game, Old Maid. It's the game that has 2 of every card. So there's 2 old maids, there's 2 butchers, there's 2 bakers, there's 2 teachers. And it's a game of almost like Snap. You want to find the pairs. And Sage and I were playing to just explore these different ways of being in the world. We weren't really playing to win. But we're turning over cards. And in this magical moment, the card that gets turned over is the card of the witch. And without missing a beat, Sage looks up to me and says, "Look, Mum, it's you." That is the first time I feel that I am seen without edit. I had never said to my son that I wish to be a magic maker in this life, that I identify with the archetype of the witch, and not witch in terms of a broom and a pointy hat, but a witch in terms of someone who follows the natural cycles of the world and understands that healing comes from the earth and that prayers are real. I never said any of that to my not yet 5-year-old son, but he saw that in me. And from that day on the wooden steps, I was able to see it in me, because if he could see it in me, then it was in me. Chapter 2. We are on a family road trip on the way to my sister Kathy's house, and it's Easter time. Sage is 10 years old and he is asleep in the bed next to me, and actually I'm asleep too. But I am woken in dream time by a guide. I do not know who this guide is, but he knows me. He is tall, of Middle Eastern descent, and he has a very elaborate hat, which makes him appear as someone with authority. And he says to me in dream time, "I need you to remember, for you have chosen to forget every other time that I have come. This is the last time I can be with you. It's important that you remember. The research is important." Now, I wake the next day and I have no idea who this guy is. Who is this elaborate hat man who came to visit me in my dreams? And what is this research? I have no idea, but I know that it is important because he told me so. 3 days later, my son Sage unexpectedly died in his dream time. I woke on the 3rd of April 2013 and my son Sage did not. It was not immediate, but within days I remembered the guide and I remembered his message. The research is important. Now, it felt connected to Sage's death, but I had no idea how. What research, and why is this important? And why did you tell me that 3 days before my son, 1 month before his 11th birthday, unexpectedly dies? It took me 3 years to understand that the research was my lived experience of losing Sage. It was my lived experience of grief and its transformation. For by living through that, I could embody the understanding of why do our hearts break? And what does that have to do with our souls? What does that have to do with the stories of who we are? And what I came to understand is we never actually lose anyone, for only love is real. Whether we are earthbound or in spirit, it's all about love. And our hearts break so our souls can bounce. Our hearts break on purpose so we spend time with them intimately in putting our pieces back together. For when we understand ourselves in heart, we understand the essence of who we are. And the essence of who we are is an earthbound soul who is here to bounce and expand. Chapter 3. It's days ago, just last week, and I am deeply uncomfortable. I don't first connect to the fact that Sage's death day anniversary, the 13th death day anniversary, is on its way. At first, it just comes through as frustration, and then anger, and then sadness, and almost neutral, numb. This happens over a series of days where I'm oscillating in feelings and I don't know how to find any stable ground. And so I choose to surrender. I surrender into the bed and I surrender into myself. And I start speaking out loud about what I'm feeling, what all of this could possibly mean for me in my story, in my life, in what the fuck is going on right now. I know that the 3rd of April is coming soon. And I know that there is a message here for me. And I know that Sage is with me, for he has been with me all of the years beyond his death. We have worked through understanding this separation. He has invited me to please, Mum, be okay, for I am okay. I made it to feeling okay. I made it to understanding the research and the embodied experience of being human and allowing your heart to break. I worked through needing to release Sage further into spirit so that the energy that bound us as mother and son could release a little so more could be shared through the channel that we share together. And I feel deeply grounded, earthbound, for I have this big mission now of inspiring 1 million intuitive heroines globally. And my husband and I have our shared dream of building our retreat center here in Tobago. And I'm connected to so many amazing people. And I feel at purpose, but something inside me is rattling from the inside. And so I surrender into speaking out loud what is happening inside me. And then it comes through. By staying here, by committing to being the essence of me, which is a moon witch, a magic maker, an intuitive heroine, by continuing to stay here earthbound and do the work I have committed to doing, it means I don't get to go to my forever home in spirit for many years to come, which means I don't get to be with Sage for many years to come. And I feel the missing of my soulmate. My beautiful master teacher Sage, who saw me so clearly on the wooden steps, who brought to me the soul-shaking, heartbreaking lesson, catalyst and initiation into the deeper meaning of why I am here. He is with me in soul. He is with me inside this story as I tell it. And here I am, earthbound, living out the next chapters to come. So just taking a breath with you here. Sage for me, my soulmate, my son, my teacher, my co-creator. He is an initiator and a catalyst in my life. But what I have learnt over the years with him earthbound, and definitely in the years since he's passed, is he is a catalyst of my story. He was an agitator that moved me into new chapters in my story. But like he said to me after his death, I am okay, Mum. You be okay now. What I have learnt deeper into this research is this is not the Deb and Sage story. This is my story. Sage's soul has his own story, and you, my friend, you have your story. And you get to decide what the research is that you're embodying, what the meaning is for you. You get to decide who you are inside this story. For we all have these catalyst stories, these game changer stories, and they're not always stories that we want to live again or even claim. It's not always the things that we wanted to happen to us, but they do make who we are. And you get to decide how you tell this story, what this story means for you, because it is the making of you. There is no world where I want to repeat the pain of waking on the 3rd of April and knowing that my son no longer lived, to find him not breathing in the bed. And I also know this is my story. This is my story to own, to live inside of. You don't have to like it, but you can lovingly allow and accept it. Because when we can, as women, no longer be upset or resentful or feel shame or silencing about who we are, then we get to begin to understand who we are. And this is my invitation today. Take your time, breathe deep, and identify for yourself what are the game changer catalyst stories for you. And how are you telling that story? What does this story mean for you? It doesn't mean that you make suddenly any of the actions or any of the things that happen in these stories suddenly okay. This is not spiritual bypassing or just adding some sugar on top with toxic positivity. This is not what I'm talking about here. But I'm talking about being inside the stories that have shaped you and allow that story to tell you a story. Because without Sage in my life, without Sage's death, without Sage's continued love story in spirit, there's no way I could know myself as I know myself today. There's no way that my heart could be stitched in the way that it is. It is the making of me in one of my catalyst stories. As I shared, we have so many. But intuitive heroines know we own our stories and we get to tell them how we want to tell them without silencing, without shame, or without blame. But this is the power position. This is what sets you free to then truly remember who the fuck you are.